Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's that time again for How to App on iOS with me, Jade. I hope you're all doing well today. We're going to kick off with something a little different just for this episode. Let's scoot over to say hello to everyone firstly. Maybe I'll do that after this. Let's try this. Things are the same, everything's changed. Even the sun doesn't feel so bright today. When will it end? When can we leave? Right now I'd settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week, feels like a year. Doing okay, you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. So you're asking, why the hell am I singing along to Pete Johns' new track from his new EP? Well, I'm going to be playing around with this song today, and I'm going to be concluding this little 4-part series we've been running this week for those of you who've been following along at home. So I just thought I'd warm up my pipes and have a little bit of a sing because it's such a cool song. It really needs to be on the radio. So what we are doing today, we are putting together from the past 3 previous shows. I showed you a little bit of Music Studio on episode, 5? Then episodes... God, episode 4 maybe, who knows. Then we did an episode on iSymphonic. Yesterday we did an episode on heavy brass. And today we're going to bring it all into GarageBand. That's what I hope anyway. So just to show you what else is going on, I have a cam set up here with my keyboard, my M-Audio Code 49 keyboard. So we definitely have sound coming through. Now, I will put a warning up front, so let's do some housekeeping before we get into all of this. There's a little bit of lag from my keyboard to the actual recording, so I'll be doing my best to play in time as much as I can. You have to understand that I am running an iPad Pro over here with 4 really labor-intensive apps running. I've got a keyboard hooked up to it. It's all going into a mixing desk and then into a computer and through a program called Reflector. There's a lot of S-word going on, if you know what I'm saying. So, now that we've got that out the way, hello to Bubba, hello Pete, thank you for being here, SM Borthwick, Scott, Tom, usual suspects as Pete would say. God, I need to scroll up, there's so many people here, so many comments. Who else? Paul's Travels. Have I missed anyone? I've got my glasses on, so I'm doing better than normal. Thank you all for being here and supporting this ridiculous endeavor I'm trying to do. It's more like an S-word show. I'm trying not to swear, okay? So, the other thing I want to cover in housekeeping as well today is... oh, my cat started crying. My cat's in love with me. Anyway, the other thing I want to cover today, the reason I'm showing this particular method of putting together an orchestra into GarageBand initially came from me not owning an iPad Pro, is because I owned an iPad 2017 model, and now those iPads don't have a lot of RAM to run background processes, okay? So anyone who's used AUV3 plugins in GarageBand will know this. If you use too many AUV3 plugins, GarageBand has a really hard time with it. It just absolutely craps itself. So it's really hard to actually build an orchestra in GarageBand using something like iSymphonic, because it only lets you choose one instrument at a time. So in the way around that in GarageBand is to actually use an AUV3 plugin of iSymphonic, record a track, and then merge the track from being a Midi track into an audio WAV file, and then add another track as an AUV3. Once you've got it settled, merge it down as an audio track. And that way you're freeing up all the system resources, and you won't be getting the dreaded, I don't even want to say it in GarageBand because it'll probably happen to me. So I'm not saying those words. It's like saying the devil's name 3 times backwards in front of a mirror. Not doing it. So I came up with this method when I had a really low-end iPad. Not low-end, I mean, it's still a really good iPad. I still use it. I came up with this method because the iPad could actually deal with the process this way a lot easier than doing a track and then saving it, merging it into a WAV file. There it is. I can see it in the chat. Optimizing performance. So that is the reason why I came up with this method, because there are going to be people who look at this and go, oh, it's really convoluted, and why the hell are you doing that? There's a method to my madness, and I'm always trying to find a hack around something that can push my iPad to its absolute limit, to push iOS to its limit. I don't know if many of you know this, but way back in the day because I've had nearly every iPhone that's come out, and back in the day, iOS wasn't as user-friendly as what it is right now. And on my iPhone 3G, I was one of the original people who was part of crews who basically jailbroke iOS and was instrumental in things like the Cydia App Store. And a lot of the features you do see now on iOS came from the jailbreak community. And back when I was first making music on iPhone, back in 2011, using Music Studio, you couldn't transfer files between apps. That's completely out of the question. There's no way to do it whatsoever. Apps didn't speak to each other. So you had to jailbreak, then get into the root file system of your iOS device and actually pull the file down, save it onto a computer, and then upload it back or email it to your phone. It was convoluted as all hell. So seeing people now just drag files across to me is, I'll be honest, when iOS, 11 came out, that night, the first time I drag and dropped a file in the Files app, I literally cried. I've been using this goddamn platform for how many years? 8 years or whatever, and just the ability to do that was so freeing. Anyway, enough of the crap. Let's get down to where we were up to yesterday. Okay, so we want to get into Music Studio. Here we are in Music Studio. Now, as you'll remember, if you've watched yesterday, I've got this top track which has the Symphony sounds that are built into Music Studio. The second track is iSymphonic Orchestra, and the third track is Heavy Brass. Now you'll see I've added something in here to the bottom of here. I've added an actual recording of Pete John's single. And what I've done is I've just taken a mix down of the GarageBand file. So it's the exact same length. And if you notice up the top, above where I've just touched on the screen, you'll see the BPM up there. I'll just double touch that. It's at 70. Now why it's at 70 is because if I go back over to GarageBand, you'll notice Pete's track is 70 as well. Okay. So let's get back over here. Oops. I'll touch off there. Right, so I'm going to show you about 3 different methods today on how this trick, you've got so many different methods to do this. Now, what we're trying to do, remember, is incorporate a full orchestra into one track. So we're just minimalizing the whole process. So let's click on to the orchestra. So the way we set up, the way I actually set this orchestra up when we added the sounds in the previous video, one half, the lower half of the keyboard, has an orchestra and a piano, and the higher end of the keyboard has an orchestra and a xylophone. Right, now I'm on this actual iSymphonic track, so that's what you can hear. I'm going to mute the other 2 tracks. Right, so everything else is muted here. Now I'm going to skip over back to GarageBand. Now you can probably see on my screen, every time I hold down Command and Tab, this comes up. This is really great for having a keyboard. This is app switcher, so you can just switch between apps really quickly without even touching the screen. I love my Apple Magic Keyboard. It is so amazing. So what we need to do now is add a track to Pete's song. I just want to pull his vocals back into the mix as well, so we can record this from Music Studio into GarageBand. So I'm going to hit the plus sign. We're going to go to Inter-App Audio. So you've got 2 options here in External Audio Unit Extensions and Inter-App Audio. When this comes up, you'll see Music Studio. The 3 apps I'm using are sitting up there up the top. Choose Music Studio. Ignore AirPlay. That's because I'm using AirPlay. And now you'll see there's a new channel there. It's selected to record. And look at that. It's a bit loud. Sorry about that for your ears at home. So we've got sound. Let's click over to my camera here. So you'll notice there's a delay, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Definitely a big delay. So I'm going to compensate as much as I can. Now the reason I've set the tempos for both songs to be the same is so I can start. Hang on, I won't actually go into that yet. Right. So here we are. I'm going to start at point 20. This is where Pete's actual orchestral sounds start. So I'm going to start around there, and I'm going to record a take, and let's see how this sounds. Okay, here we go. Right, we record.
Settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week.
Whoa.
Feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine?
Sorry about
How
that.
are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
I don't know, what have I done there? I've done something stupid. Let's go back. I do apologize for that. What have I done?
It's been a week. It feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you
Cool.
okay?
That's better. I had my mouse pad on top of the pads here on my keyboard. That was really, really stupid. Alright. I don't think I've shifted it. I think we're back to a decent level now. We're back to... Let's try that again, okay? So sorry.
Even the sun doesn't feel so bright today. When will it end? When can we leave? Right now I'd settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week, feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
That's nice of my keyboard to do that. Let's stop that. Wow, you gotta love technology and live shows. It must be stuck there. Let's see where this is. Wow. This is what happens with lag. So anyway, let's go back now to GarageBand. It's not important that we get the whole song down anyway. So for what we're trying to do, let's now, as you can tell, there's so much lag.
Feels like a year. I'm doing okay.
So what I'm going to do to compensate for the lag is just do this.
Feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
Okay, so that's enough for now. At least we've got that track down. So because of the lag, I've adjusted it so it's at least kind of in tune. When you're doing this, you're not going to have that lag. So keep that in mind. I'm battling against lag central. So what we're going to do now is we're going to duplicate this track. I'm going to start this a bit earlier this time. I'm going to play the low notes of this. Let's make sure it's recording. And we're going to do another take, but instead of using the same sounds that I have, obviously, I'm going to now go over to Music Studio and going to go into the orchestra, and I'm just going to choose one of my sounds I've already saved in the past, which is, I've got an orchestra here. Let's just choose this full orchestra and scoot back over to Music Studio. Cool. All right, so we're back here in GarageBand and we're going to record a second track, and let's hope this one goes a little bit better.
Settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week. Feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
Okay, so let's have a listen just to these two alone and see what it sounds like. Hopefully I'll get them in time a little bit. Let's zoom in and make sure I can get them in time as much as possible. Little surgery there. I can't record it to a click track because this track was not played to a click track. It's played more free, if you get what I'm saying. Oh, that was you, Pete, who wrote that. I took off my glasses. So there you go.
Near, are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass. This too shall pass.
Okay, so what we're going to do next. So there's one way of doing it. You're playing directly live into the song through Music Studio, and you're getting 2 tracks there and with a massive orchestra already. So there's already horns, everything in that. That's just one example. Now I'm going to mute these 2 tracks, and we're going to create we're going to create a brand new track here. Once again, add Music Studio. Skip back over to GarageBand, cool, and just turn down that volume. Now the other technique I'm going to show you right now using Music Studio, once we get back there, is in this track selection. Now this goes back to using, I'm going to be using the Midi clock here. And I'm going to be recording this at the same time, right? So we want to make sure in Pete's song, a lot of switching back here, we're set at about, I'm going to set it to 18. Okay, and we'll just skip back to Music Studio. All right. Now, you can actually record the MIDI in this track. You can actually record it and play along. So, hang on, now I know what I'm doing wrong. Cool, we're not using GarageBand at all for this. So let's go down. As you can see on this 4th track, I'm losing myself. It was muted. This is Pete's track that I've added down the bottom. The exact same, it's a mix down from the exact same GarageBand file. So when I hit play over here, so what I'm going to do now is move this over to about marker 18, around 20 maybe. And I'm going to hit record in this program. And I'm going to record this as a MIDI take. Okay? Let's get this rocking.
Now I'd settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week. Feels like a year. You're doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things in this new design? Don't know how long it's gonna last, but like everything, this too shall pass.
So when I hit stop on that and go back to the track view in here, you'll notice there's there's been MIDI files added. So I'm going to click on this file, double click on it, and look at that. It's actually recorded MIDI. Now, if you're not used to using MIDI, you've really only been using GarageBand and the virtual instruments, you already know what this looks like because it virtually is the exact same thing as GarageBand's MIDI. You can select notes, you can change the velocity of them, you can drag your finger across and select whole notes, you can move them around, up and down. You've got all these little toolbars down the bottom here. You've got you can double them up, you can copy them, move them to another place. So it virtually is exactly the same as GarageBand. You can even if you just wanted to save this MIDI file, you can save this now as a MIDI file and then import this into GarageBand. So you can fix these takes up, move them so they're in the correct position, because you know I'm playing with a lot of lag today, so obviously they're all going to be a little bit behind, unfortunately. So I mean, let's try doing that now. Let's try selecting them all, and maybe moving them a little bit back. Go back to the full view. I probably need to bring him forward. Okay, that wasn't very smart. Hey, it's early in the morning. Give me a break. So let's move him a little bit forward. Let's move him to about there. Give that a try.
Reprieve. It's been a week. Feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding things?
Anyway, you get the idea. So now that that's sitting there in the track, another way to import this into GarageBand. So here's the problem. If you save this track now as a MIDI file and then import it into GarageBand, you lose the actual musical notes. You lose the samples. So you're only getting the data from the MIDI file going into GarageBand. And GarageBand will try and choose the instrument to go with it, which I suspect would be the orchestral sound, the stock standard orchestral sound. But here's another way to import this into your track if you're not confident about playing it live into GarageBand. So if you record it in here and then fine tune it, go in and edit it so you get it all to match up with Pete's track, every note's completely matched, because you can quantize everything as well. I'm not going to go into the full specifics of that. That's for you to go and investigate and learn and make mistakes and do all of that stuff. But you can quantize it, get it all perfect so it's all in key and all perfectly set up. Now here's the fun bit. I just love this. I think it's really cool. So you take the song back to 0 in here and make sure Pete's track is muted and only the iSymphonic track is ready to go. Then scoot across to GarageBand, take your song back to 0, hit on the cog in the top right hand corner, go down to Advanced and click Send MIDI Clock. So what this does is it talks now to Music Studio and it syncs up. So once I hit record in GarageBand, over in Music Studio it will start playing to the exact same time and same beat as GarageBand. So you can have multiple tracks sitting there all queued up that you've set up with multiple different sound effects, different samples from Music Studio, and then just sync them all up to the MIDI clock in GarageBand, hit record in GarageBand if it's all set up by the same tempo, and it'll just record it all into the tracks that you have selected. So let's just show you an example. Let's do it now. Hopefully it works. It hasn't done me wrong in the past. So it should all be set up. I'll just click back over to the Music Studio and make sure we're all good here. All good. All should start playing. Now it's going to play you have to go from the start of the song right to the end. That's the unfortunate thing. I'm sure there is a way to do it because I've done it before to start halfway through, but I just couldn't remember this morning. So back over to GarageBand. We'll hit record. And let's see what happens. As you can see over here in Music Studio, it's playing along. So you can see the meter moving along. So this can just really take the pressure off having to play a performance, but getting different sounds from another. And you can do this with heaps of DAWs, okay? You can actually do this with many other DAWs because every DAW has a MIDI clock sync. So if you like sounds in Cubasis or any other DAW that has a MIDI clock sync, you can use those sounds, match it up to the song that you want, same tempo, and just lock the MIDI clock in and hit record, and it'll just pull it across into the song.
Things aren't the same. Everything's changed. Even the sun doesn't.
We'll jump over to GarageBand again.
So bright today. When will it end? When can we leave? Right now I'd settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week. It feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine?
How cool is that? And you can edit it down. And it saves you playing all of that stuff. And so let's do something with, just for an example, because we're running out of time and I know it has gone a little bit long today. Let's scoot back over to Music Studio. We'll mute iSymphonic and we'll unmute Heavy Brass. Let's open Heavy Brass. Can we do it? Let's do it this way. Where are we? Heavy Brass. And we'll grab just a sax just to add that in. We'll go saxophone. I've got one pre-saved. Cool. Give it a little bit of volume. Now let's head back over to these tracks here and unmute Pete's track and start recording over here.
We leave.
Okay,
Right
hook.
now I'd settle for a small reprieve. It's been a week. It feels like a year. I'm doing okay, but you're not near. Are you okay? Do you feel fine? How are you finding
Man, my lag's so bad.
this new design?
But you get what I'm saying. I do apologize for that. Okay, so once again, you can see these MIDI notes have appeared in that track. So again, you can add anything in here. And remember, in Music Studio, you can not only just add these things, any kind of inter-app audio that you have. Look at the list here. So Ravenscroft. These are just some of the ones I have on my computer. You can do so much with this incredibly old school app and all these amazing symphonic apps that I've been showing you into GarageBand to make your life a little bit easier if you've got a, as I said earlier, easier if you've got a more lower end device, a more lower end iPad, to give your GarageBand a bit of a facelift for sound, because we all know the sounds in GarageBand, man, they are so long overdue for a revamp. So you've got to come up with new sounds. I mean, not only that, you've got drum kits as well in here as well. So so you've got pads to play drums just like in iOS with the drum kit. So you can do that into the MIDI here and MIDI clock into it, or play live into the song. So these are just a few different little options you can do to spice up your GarageBand, or if you have a older iPad that you just want to try and micromanage and avoid the optimizing performance a little bit more. So I hope this has been somewhat helpful, even though for all the lag that's been going on today. I do apologize for the lag, but it's the best you can do when you're trying to put so much running through the screen, running through the computer at one time. So this is the end of this week's kind of little 4-part tutorial. I hope you've got something out of this. I know a few people have purchased some of the apps, the heavy brass app that I went over yesterday. Good luck with that. I hope you make lots of mistakes and learn heaps from it. Tomorrow's show's a little bit different. Each end of the week I do an interview with somebody, and I'm really excited to say tomorrow I'm interviewing Dan Baker, who is just an incredible musician and teacher who has an amazing YouTube channel, who does tutorials for GarageBand on iOS, creates amazing music, covers, teaches people so much amazing stuff. So I'm really excited to have him on the show. Let me just move my mic over here just to see if anybody said anything in the chat that I need to catch up with. Thank you everybody for being here today. And I hope you're here for tomorrow. I'll let you know next week. I've got planned, I'm going to be mixing down some of my own songs. I may be doing in 20 minutes trying to get the ultimate death metal sound, and I may follow that up with how to get the ultimate funk guitar sound using Bias FX2, maybe. I'm possibly also going to be doing a how-to in 20 minutes graphic design thing for some banners, links for songs to make your own banners for selling your songs when they appear on Spotify, banners, website banners, Facebook banners, YouTube banners, using a specific app which you will find out next week. But I'll stop stumbling over my stupid words because I've rabbited on way too long. And thank you all for sticking by with this and dealing with the mistakes that we all should make. And I hope you'll have a fantastic day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And I will see you tomorrow with the awesome Dan Baker. So until then, like, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.